The Great Zapfish, the power source of Inkopolis and Splatsville. Without this massive electric catfish, these two locations would lose electricity, bringing unknown chaos to the regions. In each main Splatoon campaign, the Great Zapfish is kidnapped and returned in the end. But what if there's some reason it's not able to be returned? Maybe Agents 3 or 4 fails a rescue, maybe it's killed in one of its many explosions it gets in. Regardless of the reason, what would happen if the Inklings didn't have the Great Zapfish? But before we get into this video, it would mean the world to me if you help me get to 25,000 subscribers. So if you want to help a homie out, then drop a subscribe if you want to also see new Splatoon videos almost every day. Alright, video time. So to start this question, we need to break it up in 3 parts. Splatoon 1, 2, and 3, for each time it's gotten kidnapped. If the Great Zapfish was unable to be saved in Splatoon 1 for whatever reason, this would probably end up being the most problematic time period, because at this point there's no Grizzco. Though most of these time periods, Grizzco would end up being the group to fall back on, but we'll touch on them when we get to Splatoon 2. But for Splatoon 1, there's a few places we know Inklings could get a secondary source of power. For one, Bluefin Depot used to be a coal mining facility before it shut down after the Great Turf War. So it's not impossible for them to get it back up and running again. It was never stated that it ran out of coal, although Inklings are probably aware, based on human records, that the Earth was kind of destroyed with fuels like coal. We can see this from Splatoon 1 Sunken Scrolls. You could argue that Inklings may not be able to figure this out based on the language gap, but I mean, if the Splatoon community can figure out the Inkling language, then I'm pretty sure that Inklings could figure out English or something. Besides coal, we know that Inklings have power sources fueling their car infrastructure, which means we've got a few options as to what's powering these cars, as it's most likely not Zapfish. It's possible that they still have a little oil left over from humanity that we didn't touch, with Splatoon being around 10,000 years in the future. You've still got around 5 to 6 million years before the human bones start turning into oil, so it's likely that oil isn't the main source of fuel they're using. Especially since Splatoon's humanity probably used an unfathomable amount more than real humanity used, so it's kinda iffy on if there's a whole ton of oil left. Next we've got natural gas, which is probably in a pretty similar situation as oil, so we're not going to spend that much time talking about it. Now, electric cars may be your go-to here, but I'm going to stop you right there. Inkopolis is in Japan. Our real Japan in the real world has a problem with EVs because there isn't a lot of lithium over there, which is why car companies like Toyota have been fighting governments to delay the mandatory EV rollout. And if real Japan is having a hard time with lithium, then post-apocalyptic Inkopolis is probably going to be much worse. But there is something that Inkopolis has a ton of: water. Hydrogen power. Hydrogen and hydroelectricity would be a pretty easy power source for Inkopolis to fall back on, and we can see that in the Splatlands with places like Gone Fission Hydro Plant. Post-apocalyptic Japan is going to be using at least a little bit of water to power things. Modern-day Japan is a big promoter of hydrogen power. Going back to Toyota, guys, I swear this is relevant to Splatoon. They're a pretty big promoter of hydrogen power. It's not impossible for Inklings to have discovered the blueprints for a hydrogen vehicle, produced something like what they saw, and now their car market is all hydrogen. This isn't a crazy idea. Real-world brands exist in Splatoon. So I think most likely the source of electricity in the Splatoon 1 era of Inkopolis would most likely be hydrogen. It's very abundant for the area, and coal would be a small substitute. There's probably not much left even before the apocalypse. Japan just isn't a natural resource-rich country. But anyway, on to Splatoon 2. Now, this is where we get into Grizzco. With our hindsight, we are aware that Grizz just wanted the golden eggs. There wasn't much of a need for power eggs. It seems likely that Grizz could have struck some deal to give power eggs to the Inkopolis government in exchange for cash or whatever Grizz would want for his evil schemes. However, the Great Zapfish is gone, so Mr. Grizz might be a lot more reluctant on trading off those power eggs. The Alternan rocket was launched with the power of the Great Zapfish, so if he doesn't have the Zapfish's power, then the price Inkopolis is going to have to pay for the eggs may go up, which, if there aren't any better alternatives, we might have seen costs cut in different factors of Inkopolis' life. For example, Splatfests are all done for free because Inklings hate change and they give it all to the government. The Inkopolis government then uses that change to host Splatfests. If Grizz puts a higher price on those eggs, then that change may go back to Grizz instead of Splatfests. Of course, power eggs were never really Grizz's priority like the golden eggs were. His use for them wasn't that important. So Grizz has 2 options to use these power eggs. He could either A, give the eggs to the Inkopolis government. In exchange, he could get stuff like more promo for Inklings into Grizzco, thus leading to giving more eggs to the Inkopolis government, which leads to more promo, all in this time getting more golden eggs. Or B, Grizz sells the eggs to profit to the Inkopolis government and makes a fat bag to help out with his mammalian trolling. Take whichever outcome you'd like. Either way, Grizz walks away doing much better and in a higher position of power. So after that, we come to Splatoon 3. So there's one real place where the Great Zapfish could have been decommissioned, which is during the rocket trip up to lower orbit of Earth. The Great Zapfish was already in visibly poor condition in its captive state, so if the Great Zapfish didn't survive the trip, but Agent 3 still beat Grizz, how would Splatsville fare after? Well, there's still all the options discussed in the Splatoon 1 segment, and we can use the stages like Gone Vision Hydro Plant of examples of Inklings searching for other power sources. And Grizz Co still exists. While we don't know for sure who runs it, Grizz no longer has need for golden eggs anymore, so you're left with a very profitable, somehow legal pyramid scheme, with a quote-unquote sustainable source of power if the Great Zapfish was taken out of commission. It seems like no matter what, Inkopolis and Splatsville will be just fine if they don't have the Great Zapfish anymore. But, you know, this is Splatoon, so they could just put a ton of 14-year-old Inklings on stationary bikes with wires attached and power banks to collect it all day. But yeah, that's it from me. There's some more extreme ideas like I didn't really touch on, like Rasika's idea of repurposed sea creature eggs. If you want to learn more about that, then check out Rasika's channel. But there's all my ideas on what would happen in the world of Splatoon if the Great Zapfish wasn't saved. Let me know what you think. Do you like the ideas I've got here? Do you have any ideas of your own? Let me know in the comments. Also, I'm trying to get to 25,000 subscribers before the end of the month, so if you want to hit that subscribe button, that would be pretty cool. Alright gamers, see ya.